Meet the Maserati MC20 Cielo, not only one of the most beautiful cars on the road, but also the first supercar I have ever driven. So I'm going to approach this video like a supercar novice and attempt to show you what it is like to drive and just experience this vehicle. Now, from my time with this car, I've been able to tell that it's actually quite approachable. Compared to other supercars I've been in, not driven, but just been in, it is far less frightening. Here's what I mean. Are you in the process of buying or leasing a new car? It could be a supercar like the Maserati MC20, a little sports car like this BMW Z4, or just a daily driver like a Honda Accord. If you are, I can help by narrowing your search to just 3 to 5 vehicles by curating a customized list of vehicle recommendations that fit your needs. Head over to drakemoscow.com/buying a car to see how I can help you find your new car. It starts with just getting into the car. There's always a lot of pomp and circumstance around entering a supercar, and the MC20 is no less dramatic, with doors that go up like that. But then when stepping into the car, it's actually quite easy. There's no massive lip you need to step over and no rigidly thin side bolster that you need to avoid sitting on. You kind of just put a foot in and drop down. It's also not all that low. I think I've been in lower vehicles than this MC20. It's quite easy for a supercar to just get in, and there you are sitting in it. And because this one is the Cielo version, when you have the roof down, it also makes it a lot easier because you don't have to lower your head in order to sit right in. You can kind of just stand up, use the steering wheel, and then once you're in and ready to turn the car on, well, you're not going to go deaf or really be frightened at all. It's a very subtle ignition, and even when you try to give it some revs, there's a 3,500 RPM rev limiter, so you can't really show off this car when you're at a standstill. Exciting? Not really. Frightening? Also no. And this interior isn't that foreign either. There are power adjustable seats, which are quite comfortable for a supercar, and everything is laid out really similarly to a normal car. You have push button gear selectors, a single cup holder, a center console that is really small, but it's still there. You have a volume knob, an infotainment system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But the steering wheel is also very familiar. You have volume controls, you have cruise control settings, you have your start button there, there's paddle shifters, but then there's also just your windshield wiper controls, which there's only a single windshield wiper blade on this car, which is pretty cool, as well as your turn signals. So like there's nothing too out of the ordinary here. I think the biggest departure from a normal vehicle is that there's no park gear. You just turn the car off when you arrive at your destination and it will automatically put on the parking brake. Another cool feature about the MC20 Cielo is that when its top is in place, one, it's a hard top, which is really cool, and two, it has an electrochromatic roof. So at the press of a button in the screen, you can change it from opaque to transparent at the press of a button. Transparent right now, opaque, transparent, opaque. That's pretty cool. Now, one of the reasons the startup and revving process of this vehicle is so tame, not lame, but tame, is because of what is under the hood of this car. Well, under the convertible roof mechanisms. You can't see it on the Cielo, but it is down there. It is a 3-liter twin-turbo V6 developed in-house by Maserati. It makes an impressive 621 horsepower and 538 pound-feet of torque. And trust me, when you drive this car, you're not going to miss any other engine because this thing is so punchy and so powerful. But compared to Maserati's last generation products, which were all powered by a Ferrari sourced V8, this definitely does not sound as good. There's a little bit of soul missing to this engine, especially when you're just kind of driving at lower speeds or turning the car on. You don't get that really exciting exhaust note that you would associate typically with a supercar. But when you are pushing this vehicle, oh my God, does this engine perform. Driving the Maserati MC20 Cielo. I don't know if it's the over $50,000 in carbon fiber options that this car has, but this car feels so light and nimble on its feet. It's the lightest, most nimblest car I have ever driven. Now, that's greatly aided by the fact that this makes 621 horsepower and 538 pound-feet of torque. So when you put your foot down, it just rockets forward. I mean, this car is so quick and so fast. You have to be careful because since this is rear-wheel drive, it can easily lose traction. But it's not just the power of this car that makes it feel so light, it's also the steering. This is the quickest, most direct steering I have ever felt on a car. Maserati nailed the steering of this vehicle, and then the chassis remains so flat no matter where you are pointing the steering wheel. This is one of the most athletic vehicles I have ever driven. It feels like a supercar, which this vehicle is. It might only have a 3-liter twin-turbo V6, but it's still a supercar, undoubtedly. The chassis, the steering, and the power all are very evident of that. But as I've said, this is also a very livable vehicle. Even though it is a supercar, it's really easy to just get in and drive. These seats are pretty comfortable. The suspension in both GT and Sport mode are also pretty comfortable. You don't have to worry about having a super harsh ride. There is a nose lift on this vehicle, so you can get over, you know, speed bumps and other big changes in the elevation of the surface. The cabin is pretty airy for the driver and the passenger, but there isn't a whole lot of storage, to be sure. There is a wireless charging tray up front where you could put like your phone and your keys. There's a single cup holder and a tiny little center console that can fit my sunglasses and a little wrapper that I had as piece of trash. This other water bottle I have is sitting in the passenger seat. The frunk is really small. It's kind of where all the manuals and stuff for this vehicle are stored. That's how small it is. And the rear cargo area also isn't very big. I was not able to fit my carry-on suitcase when I picked this car up from LAX. I had to put that in the passenger seat. So this isn't really a vehicle you could go on a road trip in because there isn't that much storage. But if there was more storage, like I bet the non-Cielo version without the drop top convertible roof would have a bit more storage in it. And it's really a shame that this vehicle isn't more spacious on the inside, because it is an otherwise really usable, daily drivable supercar. I put my foot down here. Yeah, it's really fast. The brake pedal is very firm. There is a gauge in the instrument cluster that shows you what percent you're pushing the brake pedal, and what would normally be like all the way pressed in terms of how much effort I am putting into the pedal on a car right now, it's saying is 34%. So you really have to squeeze the brake pedal of this vehicle. They're carbon ceramic brakes in order to get it to 100%. It feels like when you're braking, the brakes are not very good, but it's just that the pedal is really firm. It's very sporty. It's kind of like a race car, and you really have to stomp on it in order to get the full grab of the brakes. And once you do, then the car will come to a stop quite quickly. They are really good brakes, these carbon ceramic ones, which are an optional extra. I think they're about 10 grand. There are a couple small things I'm not too blown away with by the car. The screen, this infotainment screen, it's fine, it does CarPlay, but it is how you both drop the top, which is annoying that you have to press 1, 2, and then hold the third button to get into the controls to drop the convertible top. It is also how you, now how do I go back? I press here and then I press Cielo. It's also how you change the electrochromatic roof from transparent to opaque. I wish those were physical buttons. That would make things a lot easier. There are 4 drive modes: Wet, GT, Sport, and Corsa. I do not trust myself to drive in Corsa because Corsa, they turn off the traction control. The MC20 turns off the traction control. And even when I have been driving in GT and Sport, when you give it gas, you can lose traction for a little bit before all of the systems kick in to make sure you don't crash. So this is a vehicle that you need to be careful about. I mean, 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds, that's no joke. This is a really, really powerful vehicle. Even though it's a 3-liter twin-turbo V6, this is still a very performance-oriented vehicle. There is a launch control. These carbon fiber paddle shifters are awesome. I'm actually going to switch into manual mode to experience these shifters because I want to see what they're like. The paddle shifters do feel very premium, and they are really responsive. Downshift, gas, yeah. So it's a really good system. There is no manual option for the MC20, which is too bad because that would be really fun, but there aren't manual options on a lot of supercars these days, so that's not all that surprising to me. The transmission is also pretty usable in day-to-day driving. It's not too jerky. It's not the smoothest transmission, obviously. It's geared for performance, not comfort. But again, I think this MC20, it's a great like introduction to a supercar. It's super easy to live with and drive. It's not overwhelming. I was a little worried getting into this car. This is the first time I've ever driven a supercar. that I would be overwhelmed and kind of scared of the vehicle, but it's very inviting. It's very welcoming. It does not scare you unless you want it to, unless you really push it, and then it will blow you away with its performance. But I'm driving around town right now and it's super easy, it's super livable, other than the fact that every single person looks at you because this car is so beautiful. I feel like I'm driving a normal car, and that's a compliment. When you want it to, this car feels oh so special. So that's the Maserati MC20 Cielo. It is the perfect first supercar, and with a starting price of $260,000, it is also priced like a first supercar, undercutting the competition from Ferrari, Lamborghini, and McLaren. I absolutely love this vehicle. It is both very inviting to drive on a daily schedule, but also riveting to drive in an aggressive manner. It is just a magnificent vehicle all around. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.